CitizenCon 2954.
We are changing how we made the game. We are scaling how we made the game in all areas. This is not just a Planet Tech update. This is a collection of systems that we call Genesis. Well, this is because currently our artists create slices of biomes in great number, and then they distribute them across the planet using humidity and temperature properties. Each slice looks great in isolation, as you've seen, as you've explored. But this is not the solution to give us varied and natural biomes across an entire planet.
So how are we going to scale up our planet generation? Well, as I said before, we're going to start with physically based rules that drive everything. We want nothing to feel random on these planets. We want no limitations on the number of biomes. We want infinite biomes that are continuously changing across the planets. And we want extreme density, and we want to maintain or exceed all of the quality levels we've set with our existing biomes. And most importantly, we want it to be scalable so that we can really scale up to the level of content that the designers are expecting. So if we see here some of our existing data sets on our planets, we have temperature, which we define locally and globally, and humidity, and that's it for now. With Genesis, we add many other data sets, such as the geology type, the soil type, and then we also go for things like the soil depth and the quality and the nutrients, and many other properties all drive this complex data set that we use to build rule sets on.
Let's start from a ground perspective. Demo number 1. So, how do we make that? Now, the terrain shader is based around 4 layers. We always first consider bedrock at the bottom of it all. Then, where appropriate, we add layers of soil of different types. We then add debris where appropriate, whether it be pine needles, dead leaves, etc. And then when it gets cold, we add snow. So in Genesis, we have rule sets for every asset that tells it how to respond to our rich data. This automatically creates the cohesive environments that you saw in that clip. Not handcrafted anymore. No one has told those ferns and those pines to be like that. They each want to be like that. So, building blocks, like grass and common grass, medium amounts of sunlight. We had ferns, see it's a much lower requirement for sunlight. We had salix bushes forming our undergrowth. And we had pines, of course, and multiple variations of pines. Diversity is driven by competition. We also have additional control over this in the form of dominance, which allows us to make one asset more competitive and more dominant than another, which is just what we see in nature.
We also see things like the natural clumping of vegetation caused by seed dispersal. This is controlled per species, so we can get better emulation of their unique growth patterns and create a much more realistic environment. And we also calculate the slope aspect, which is the exposure to vegetation to solar radiation and other environmental factors. And this allows us different species to flourish in different conditions, as we can see on different sides of this valley. And over larger scale, we calculate the age and vitality of each tree individually to drive exactly how high they should be, but also the color of their leaves. Now, this isn't the only thing that will drive the color of the leaves. We're going to introduce the concept of seasons to the game. And this will mean our planets will evolve through the year, and we'll be able to shed leaves from trees and have the grass wither in winter.
All these rules, all this data, it's all coming together to create what we call truly emergent biomes. Just like in real life, our areas should vary, even by traveling a few kilometers. If you get in a helicopter and fly over the Alps, it all looks a bit snowy, but when you look closer, it's constantly changing. And we're now able to accurately represent that with our changing data. Another very important factor to mention is the distant look. In this screenshot, you don't see a single tree, and yet the terrain is still green. Together, by creating rules and authoring data that works, we create a continuously varying planet.
So yeah, with all this new data sets and these physically based spawning rules, you're probably wondering, how is this going to handle in your CPU? We don't want to melt anyone's CPU, so we've redesigned all of this tech to work much more efficiently than before, and now it can run on many cores. This allows it to be run perfectly well on both the CPU and the GPU. Now, the benefit of this is we can do things like, first off, move the terrain system to the GPU, and we've now done that to get some incredible performance improvements, but we then also cache the results in something we call a virtual terrain texture. Now, this is now vastly faster than the previous system, but it also allows us to generate the terrain in much higher resolution, which means all the popping you can see on the mountains as we're approaching, all of that should be completely eliminated on the right-hand side of the screen.
We've been able to introduce some improvements, including high-resolution ground textures, proper blending between surface types, and of course, better tiling. And now how it looks, you don't see those lines going at all. And one more. With the terrain data cached on the GPU, like Ali said, we can perform the scattering there too, which is significantly faster. All those algorithms that we've used to generate those first bits can run there without being more expensive on your CPU. And it also means the results are directly there on the GPU. We can render straight from them. That allows us to have dramatically more density in our new system. We can render objects directly without having to go via the CPU every frame. We also cull at different levels of granularity, with bigger groups in the distance and individual assets up close. Just as a demonstration, this is the sort of density you can expect on microtech today. And in a second, we'll flip over to what you can expect from the new upcoming tech. In a second, we're going to turn on the culling groups debug so you can see. These are the groups that we create of those trees and of the terrain. And as we get closer, we shrink them so we're more intelligently rendering what we need without having to assess each tree individually, all the way down to the ground.
So for that, I'll hand you to the next phase towards Sebastian Schroeder.
The system keeps growing, both complexity and capability, so our libraries have to grow alongside it. That the system needs to populate every corner of every planet with realistic environments. And this content is what this phase of Genesis is all about, emergent biomes. It feels like it's about moisture, but let's look at very high moisture and medium to high temperature. Let's have a brief look at what it's like being inside the swamp. As you walk through or swim through the water, you may come across obstacles like logs or debris floating on the surface. They will react to the player character and can be pushed out of the way. We were also pleasantly surprised when we first saw how the water simulation systemically affects assets floating on the water surface, making for some really immersive moments. Now, for our third and last use case, Now, one thing our game's foliage is sorely missing is the ability to properly react to what's happening around it. All forces from all sources, wind, characters and creatures, ships, explosions, and whatever else, and have the vegetation behave accordingly. Now, as part of our tech improvements, we will be implementing a GPU-based simulation that's fit for our game's scale. For now, we've set up the ferns with our existing CPU-based one to better visualize what it will feel like to walk amongst those giants. Also, with the biomes on our planets now being defined by where an individual object wants to appear, you can expect a lot more happy accidents by having species invade different biomes. This concludes this phase of Genesis, so please welcome Ian to the stage, so he can tell you all about the next one.
So, let's talk about location density. We've emulated nature as well as we can to make sure our planets are physically based and realistic, and our biomes are emergent. But it's time to start populating the verse. Because where there's people, there are their lives and the structures they build. So it makes sense that whenever you go and explore these planets, that you find their lives. And what's even more important is that when we make these structures, that they use and they follow the same rules as our biomes, such as the jungles and the swamps. But before we continue, let's first take stock as to where we are now. At the moment in the verse, we have these custom, beautifully made locations, such as Ghost Hollow, we've got our distribution centers, or even just some outposts. And these have all been handcrafted by our designers and artists to hit that benchmark. Going forward, this doesn't really scale with how we want to go forward with the game. So this means we need to go bigger, which means we need to change our workflow. So, with our new benchmark, we are ensuring quality and improve on our previous work and make it even better. And any location that you'll find needs to have its own unique personality and no repetition. We don't want you to find the same location twice. So going forward, we are modularizing all our existing locations and assets. And we're basically making a library of buildings and layouts. So let's look at some of the things that we need to keep in mind as we are making that toolkit. First and foremost, we've got our art style and branding. Secondly, they all have a function. We've got mining for our mining outposts, farming for the farmsteads, or just places where people live. And last but not least, the people as well, the faction and their loadouts. We've got lawful people, like the new Citizens for Prosperity in Pyro, unlawful, such as Xenofred, and sometimes not even no one. And the place needs to look a bit, derelict. In different places, you'll find different people. Let's start building thousands of locations. Yes, I said thousands. So, to avoid the same issue of working on directly in the planet, I'd like to introduce to you Starchitect. What Starchitect allows us to do is directly on a planetary scale scatter all these new libraries and modules and assets and no longer work directly on the planet. And it uses the same logical rule set as our emergent biomes. Times by now. So for our mining outpost, it wants to be near a resource. We can specify what this resource needs to be. But we can also give it suggestions where sometimes you'd find it here and sometimes you wouldn't. If the location has refineries, it might want to be near water to refine the resources. Then secondly, we can define what buildings should be there. So obviously we need mining buildings, houses for people to live as well, and even power buildings that we can leverage with the resource network. Starchitect will intelligently figure out where to place these and what needs to be at the location. Next up, farms. Its rules, well, temperature. Not every plant can live in every temperature, but the same with soil type. Only certain plants can be in certain grounds. And then we can query the seed map to determine what plants you would find there. What are the harvestables?
As for the targets, again, farm buildings, obviously, power buildings, houses, but even animals, such as our beloved quasi-grazers. Let's talk about coherency. Sure, we can scatter all these locations everywhere on the planet, and you'll find them in places that make sense, but we can do better. So to hit that bit of our benchmark, we make sure that locations are near each other and group them together. The effect it gives is a fully developed landscape with vistas and points of interest all over. And we group them together in what we like to call a cluster, like this one, that has 13 locations. Let's talk about clusters. Clustering means generating locations near other locations. So, for example, if you find a distribution center, just like in the verse currently, I would find forward operating bases next to them. But if you go even further out, you'd find mining outposts to funnel those resources to the FOBs. Go out even further, you'd find caves around them, because that's where they might find some of the gems. And then we can even specify the data on a cluster level. All of the factions that live at this whole cluster, any mining outpost, that would be the same people, but also what commodities they sell, to find on what resource you'd find. Rules, well, near a resource, just like our mining outpost, but also it needs to be on a lawful planet. We can target on a planetary scale where they would need to be. They need protection. As for the targets, well, caves, mining outposts, but even trade posts. What rules? Well, they need to be far away from any other cluster, because they want to be isolated and do their evil deeds on their own. And also on an unlawful planet, such as somewhere in the Pyro system. For the targets, outlaw outposts, crash ships, because they would shoot them down, and also ruins from just places they just completely overrun. The data on this one, you'd find specific loadouts, and they'll be using weapons that you wouldn't find in any other legal system. And these weapons will be sold at the shops in these regions. So, now that we have a cluster, let's go even bigger. Just like our locations, we can put clusters near other clusters, and we group them together, ranging between 10 to 15 locations each. And we group this into what we call a sector. Like this one, that has about 120 locations. However, on a planetary scale, we can define how many sectors we should have, with each their own data and persona. And every single one of these locations is now ready for the mission system to hook up and give you gameplay, and for you to find a bunch of places on your own. And just on this side of the planet, can you guess the number? We've got about 3,042 locations. Let me introduce you to the stage, the person who will introduce life at these locations, Francesco Raccucci.
So up to this point, we have seen how we are building the worlds. We start from the physical data set, and this is to make sure that what you see is not just beautiful and realistic, but also physically accurate. We want the planets to basically leverage the space that emerge with life. So from an AI perspective, I will categorize the elements of those worlds into 4 macro groups. So to allow life to respect this world and conform to the rules that this environment defines, well, we want to improve our tools and workflow, and we want to distance ourselves as much as possible from a designer-driven approach. So attacking an outpost now must have a level of depth that goes beyond what we had. So layouts of the environment can change, vehicles may or may not be present, and PC can be anywhere. And if it's a bright day, well, we will be more visible, but our enemies will also be more visible. And if you choose to attack at nighttime, well, we'll attack in shadows. During darkness, it's going to be a bit harder to see our enemies, but we will also be harder to be spotted. And it will give us more opportunities to be stealthy and sneaky. How do we do that? On the planetary surface, as we've seen in the outpost, natural and artificial lights are the 2 elements that will impact vision. And knowing that, you can use this to leverage your gameplay style to exploit basically all the environment. So in this video, we'll see 2 main elements. The graph on the top left and the 2 colorful cones. The graph on the left basically represents the current light level the NPC is in and the current multiplier this light level generates. to speed up or slow down the NPC perception and understanding. The two cones instead represents the primary and secondary FOV. The red color means that if you stand in that location, it will result in NPC reacting the slowest to you, and the green color instead represents the quickest response. So during the night, NPC will have a hard time to understand and foresee and see things. But if they have flashlights on their helmets, they can turn it on, and this will impact their primary FOV, making still the peripheral vision a bit more uncertain. So we will now look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So enabling the dynamic generation of covers on the planet allows us to exploit all the elements of the environment. Whenever navigation mesh generates, NPC can now have a chance to fight with you hiding behind the available elements. Boulders, rock, walls, and are all useful elements right now. However, we don't have to limit ourselves to static geometries, but also vehicles can be used for cover. And as you can see, this is dynamically generating while the vehicle moves. So be careful where you park your Ursa, because now it can become a source of danger for you as well. Last but not least, these systems can be just used on all the different type of navigation mesh we have, so not on the planet, but also, for example, the interiors and everything you guys construct. Because obviously, you guys will build your own locations, but you don't really mark up stuff, or you don't want to decide that, because that's going to come automatically out of the system. So what I want to show you now is just like a little bit of insight of what goes behind the scene when we generate cover and navigation mesh. These are some of the steps that our system does. So what we see here is that with the introduction of Maelstrom last year, obviously we knew this would revolutionize how you guys are playing. And we did have to find a solution to handle all the destruction you can create. So you would destroy so much stuff in this world that we had to find a solution, right? So this is why we approach the cover generation navigation mesh as it is, because there is just no way for us to predict anything that you're doing, and we want just Maelstrom to be another trigger for word evaluation. So as you see, this is all dynamically generating. And destroying anything just makes the word be reevaluated. So the color that you see is mostly cover quality. So you see the light green is high cover, the dark green is low cover, and then we have the red that we introduced some time ago that is basically not really good cover, but if there is nothing better, well, it's better to be behind something than being, in open space. Let's welcome Ben Parry that will introduce you guys to Phase 4 of Genesis.
Welcome to Phase 4, Light and Sound. Now, we've seen already automated systems for automatically placing different biomes, different vegetation, settlements, and people. So now we're going to take the same approach to automatically handling light itself. Well, it's not always obvious, especially when they do their jobs as well as they do. But there's an incredible amount of attention from the lighting artists that goes into all of the locations that we have in the game. Besides just marking up the reflection probe areas, they also manage the visuals really carefully, adding fill lights, approximating bounce lights off ground and up into ceilings and dark corners where there aren't any direct lights pointing, really. And the problem is, not only does this take a lot of time and really constrain the style that they're using, it's simply not possible. If you've got a planet full of forests and, 3,000 and something placed locations, you're going to be exploring places that no artist has ever visited. No, they've not looked at, and they're certainly not going to be able to have tweaked it for you. So we need something that works completely hands-off. So this is the forest as you'd see it without the GI system. As you can see, all the shadows are receiving lighting from the same environment probe, so it's basically just a flat color across. We replace that with around 40,000 mini ray trace probes. Each of them has their own view of the sky, and so that gives you way more contrast and variation as you move in and out of the canopy. Now, there are a couple of other pieces of the puzzle that we've been working on over the last year. Now, the first is, well, all the stuff that you can't stick 40,000 mini probes onto. Anything that doesn't have an opaque surface, we can't really know where it is on the screen and track it from frame to frame. But if we don't do anything, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. We've got fog, we've got particles, we've got the other little things, I don't know what they are. And so we need something to do with those. So to address this, we've added a kind of stable grid of medium-y kind of probes that are generated around the player as you move around. So that gives us approximately matching lighting that we can apply to all of those things. Now, this is a little bit difficult to illustrate in normal scenes, so for once, I've been making my own levels. As you can see, Pico's in trouble again, but because the lighting team hasn't helped, you can't see anything in most of the scene. If you add the transparency GI system, suddenly the whole scene comes alive, and this is something that we could never have done until we added this tech. So here's what we need to beat. Now, obviously, it reads as shiny, but there's this kind of fakeness to it. It kind of looks a bit like it's flying. So let's see what the ray tracing looks like. Yeah, it's really noisy and horrible. We need to clean it up. So what we do is we let pixels share their data in space, and then also in time to clear up the final image. And then we let the game's normal anti-aliasing just kind of clean up the last stuff and carry us over the finish line. And that's how you make a chrome penguin. So here we start adding natural areas of light and shade and warm and cool colors. These open areas benefit in the same way as the forest scene did, adding areas of shade and areas of open lighting. Like I mentioned, the time of day shifting leads to different ambience as the sun moves. And this is the shot that I just liked. Finally, let's see how the new GI system can brighten up your character's day. And also their day as well. Well, I promised you light and sound, but I don't actually know anything about sound. So here's the man who does, Graham Phillipson.
So, do you want to make some noise? So, sound isn't as fast as light, so it takes me a bit to catch up. Jared wrote that joke for me, so you can blame him. But how do we paint this world with sounds? It's a challenge. It's a challenge of scale. We need to support multiple star systems, and it's a challenge of quality. We want the highest quality possible. We also don't want implementation to hinder creativity, and we want a seamless experience. So we're asking a lot. But with Star Audio, we can rapidly implement audio for entity classes, brushes, or audio sweeteners. So to add some realism, sounds respond to how they move, how you move in the world, and how they move relative to you. So we need to change the frequency as their velocity relative to the listener changes. This is known as the Doppler effect. In simple terms, the pitch dropping as something whizzes by. Or, in even simpler terms, so we've created a systemic Doppler solution. And I'm going to show you that now, the only way I know how, by putting a big Benny noodle machine on top of a mountain. So you can hear the pitch and tempo changing as we move relative to the Benny noodle machine, and this is all fully systemic, no special treatment for this sound. So how does it work? Well, the listener is surrounded by variable time delay buffering, not the horrible kind of buffering you get on the internet. This is a really nice kind that helps the game sound good. Each buffer represents a section of the sphere around the audio listener, and the audio is mixed into these buffers at a position that is appropriate to the object's position in the world. Changes in the position are applied to the delay buffer by interpolating the audio data. But you may have realized that by buffering the data in this way, we're not just creating a speed of sound. We are not just creating a Doppler effect. We are indeed, and I just spoiled my own line, creating a speed of sound effect. So, introducing systemic speed of sound to the game. Okay, sounds cool. What about weapon fire? So let's bring in a sniper and, unfortunately for the sensitive of heart, a Pico. We're going to hear this first from the perspective of both with no speed of sound effect. Okay, so that's, if you were at the Pico perspective there, that's how you'd hear it in game right now. Let's hear it with speed of sound enabled, and this time we're just going to listen from Pico's perspective. So Pico's down before he even hears the shot. But don't worry, he's not dead. Okay, let's finish him off. Now he's dead. Now finally, oh, not finally, we have ship weapons, so listen to the fire rate as the ship approaches the camera here, giving you a bit of a sense of threat. It's not too easy to tell what's going on there, but you get an increase in fire rate. Finally, the really cool stuff, explosions. So we can put a cinematic element, a shockwave element, and a delayed speed of sound effect. And that's way too cool to do just once, so we're going to do it twice more from further distance. Cinematic effect first, when you see it. Shockwave. And the explosion itself. This is all completely driven by parameters in the game, so we can do this for real whenever you drop a Moab. One more. So the speed of sound simulation gives you a better sense of distance, it improves the sense of speed, and it supports those amazing cinematic moments. So, in summary, we're trying to make the game more immersive and respond to all this Genesis data and make it feel more real. That's all from phase 4 of the Genesis cycle. Light and sound. So I'm going to hand you back to the amazing Ben and Ali to bring us home with the final phase.
This is going to be the final phase of Genesis, and it's called Nature's Wrath. And this is where we're going to bring the very planet itself to life. So, first off, let's start talking clouds. What we want to bring with Genesis is the evolution of clouds over time. We use the same physical data sets that drove the biomes we talked about earlier and Starchitect, and these are also now driving a physical simulation of the clouds so they can form and dissipate in realistic conditions. But to complement these more dynamic clouds, we've also improved our lighting model. So it now correctly accounts for how light scatters multiple times inside a cloud, and this is important, creates much deeper lighting, and it can contrast against the sun's rays, resulting in much more vivid cloudscapes like we see on the left here.
Let's take a look at a quick scene to round this up. It's a nice day on the surface, but something's different. The clouds are moving, but they're not just moving, they're forming naturally in changing shape. They dissipate as they glide on the atmosphere based on wind data, stratus and cumulus alike. Now we start seeing the new cloud shading model come into play. We are seeing enhanced occlusion beneath the cover, emphasizing the sunbeams how it interact with the clouds, and seeing the light shafts peer through the layers. Now, as this is closing in, we can start to see the changes in visibility of the area. Light precipitation is starting. Previously, we authored static cloud shapes, but no longer. We didn't manually place a volume here. Its presence has been informed by Genesis data. Oh, and it's not just a cloud volume. It's a weather front. Now we're trying to see the wind picking up. Terrain and rocks are getting wet. Vegetation, grass, and the overall environment are responding to the weather. The system is changing the world around us. We can see puddles being formed dynamically in the dirt, properly responding to light, reflections, and rain droplets, making it getting really ominous and loud in here. I can feel the danger. I think we should let this play out in the game.
now. Get back here. I'm getting out of this suit now. Powering up, flying out. We'll need to switch to IFR. See you on the other side.
Yeah, so that was a combination of lots of tech we just saw that all combined together to make a really great cohesive experience. So we started with the cloud simulation, which wasn't really a cloud simulation, it's a weather simulation. The rain will appear not at random, but it's based on physically plausible conditions, so you have real weather fronts evolving across your planet all the time. We have a host of visual effects, like the rain, and then you have the atmospheric scattering that you get under the columns of rain. We had the puddles and the splashes and all of this type of visual effects. We saw the wind developing over time, and that introduced turbulence to the flight model, making flight very challenging. And then, of course, we saw the lightning, which plays havoc with your instrumentation, but direct strikes will damage your ship, and of course, some storms will be dangerous enough to be fatal, as Ben's unlucky Aurora just found out. And these storms will sometimes be short-lived and localized, but others will be larger and potentially permanent on some planets. And this is going to restrict access via flight. I mean, players will be forced to resort to ground vehicles or even foot. And this is all going to be dynamic, meaning that you might find yourself trapped in some really unexpected situations. So we really can't wait to use all these mechanics to open up many new gameplay opportunities for All in the Verse soon.
A fundamental part of playing a massively multiplayer online game is how you connect with other players. Well, as our game server shards grow, you will encounter more players. And for that, We need to scale Star Citizen's social tools to MMO size. What we're going to show you is very early work. And we will not be making a revolution or breaking boundaries. We just want to bring our game up to MMO standards.
So, we're taking our oldest app in the Mobilglass, the Comlink app, and we're upgrading it to a brand new social app. And this is now going to be your one-stop shop for all of your friends and group gameplay. Now, this is the new and improved friends list. So you'll notice, sadly, one of our oldest friends that we all have is missing, though, and that's ATC. Sadly, our friendship has ended with ATC. So you're now going to be able to see what those real friends are doing with richer presence information. So giving you better awareness of where your friends are, what they're doing, or if they're not on, when they were last seen. And then you'll also be able to reflect your own status. So you can let friends know if you're away, don't want to be disturbed, or if you just want to hide offline for a while.
Additionally, we're moving the voice chat into the social app.
So in addition to the friends list, we're also now going to have a block list.
What are we planning to improve parties?
Yeah, so as you said, it does have some cool features like party launching, the party markers, quantum syncing. It's all good stuff, but let's take a closer look at the new features of the party list. A big thing, though, is the ship and seat breakdown. It's essentially a mini fleet manager.
Control permission for invites, so only your leaders and assistant leaders can actually invite people, so it's no longer an absolute free-for-all. And we're adding an absolute MMO staple as well, which is the ready check.
The second tab in the social app, introducing the Party Finder. It's basically player-powered matchmaking. So if you are looking for more players, just go in here, advertise your party, and you could even set things like a specific contract that you want to play, or roles that you're looking to fill. Maybe you need gunners, engineers, pilots.
Meat shields.
Then it's time to list your party.
And then people are going to be applying to join your group, which is kind of like a reverse invite. You're applying to the party, you're joining yourself, you're getting involved.
How will we improve communication? It's very much of a mess right now. Our chat's very bare bones, and voice comms, we never really know if they work.
We're adding options for you to customize the chat window, giving you the power to make the chat your own.
We're bringing back tabs.
We're bringing them back from other games. That's sweet. How kind of you. So, first off, as we can see here, we're making slash commands actually useful. So no longer just chicken dancing and flexing. It's going to be able to help you send messages to party, as well as sending DMs to other players. Another thing we're adding is that we're giving you the power to share information more easily via links. So first off, here we have contract links. We are adding star map links. This means that you can click the link and it will take you to the exact location in the star map. Another thing we're adding is item links. And, well, lastly, we're adding player links to make it easy for you to connect your friends with one another, right?
I've come up to talk a little bit about FOIP and VOIP. So it's a bit of the communication channels beyond just text chat, right? All right, so FOIP and VOIP are our systems in-game. VOIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, and FOIP, which I termed way back in 2019, Face over Internet Protocol.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
This isn't what they said it would be.
The subject has crossed the perimeter.
Most people don't associate ladies like us with salvage, do they, Shell?
That's right, Mel. In fact, we're the best in the old system at salvage, aren't we, Mel?
That's right, Shell. And you look like you get about a bit.
I'll do it. You need a break.
What? No, you're up there in what? Your underwear just drinking hooch or something and just singing away?
Wait, we have hooch? Hi, I'm Natronics, and you're watching Redline, your source for adventurous stories throughout the verse.
The name's Brad. Agent Davina Brad.
Excuse me, Captain? I'm Aaron Baxter.
We topped off yet, Aaron Baxter?
Just about, sir.
Good. I don't want to spend another second on it.
Something we have in common, sir.
Hey! Yeah!
It was that day when I met Mr. President that my life changed for the better.
Eat that apple.
You were never supposed to know any of this, Detective. You were supposed to die at Safe Haven.
Rachel.
Rachel's dead.
Hey man, I'm back again. You have any hats? Oh dude, I read the cap. What are you looking at, sir? Go away.
There's probably some improvements that we can make for that. So let's call one of my guys, Oliver Cook. He's been working on some new tracking updates. Hey Ollie, it's great to see you. Everyone's having a great time. I see you're using FOIP. Where are you?
Drive. That's correct. I'm sat here in the comfort of my own home, talking to you via the power of FOIP and my webcam. We've been working on FOIP recently, and we're starting to see some improvements to the quality of the tracking in-game.
That sounds awesome. Can you tell everyone what you've done to improve it?
Well, we started off by looking at what we originally had, and we realized that some mouth poses were really difficult to pull. So we focused on improving the range of motion of the mouth, which now looks like this. Hopefully, you can see there's more of a one-to-one relationship with what's going on in my webcam, and this has helped some of those problematic poses we were seeing before, one of which being a closed-lipped smile, which was quite difficult to achieve previously. We've also started to add in secondary motions that happen naturally when pulling combination face shapes, like squinting in the eyes when smiling or frowning. And when we combine these secondary motions with the wrinkle maps, it really goes to show just how much work has gone into these heads. Let's see how many wrinkle maps we can trigger, huh? And finally, one other thing we noticed was the tracking quality could be quite noisy in environments where the lighting is less than ideal. So to combat this, we've introduced tracking stabilization, which helps to reduce the amount of noise we get from the webcam. Let's change up my appearance here a little bit and see what we can make. The super cool thing about the character customizer is that it continues to track my face even when editing. And this is great if you want to see what FOIP will look like on your character before you commit to your appearance. Let's start off by changing my hairstyle, shall we? We have a bunch of cool hairstyles to pick from, and I used to have pretty long hair back in the day. So let's try and find something longer than I currently have. Okay, that's wild. Not quite what I'm looking for, but what else do we have? Dreadlocks. Super cool. Not what I'm after, though. Let's see here. There we go. Much better. The fun thing here is with the head tracking, it's much easier to rotate around and quickly see what I'm going to look like. Let's stick with that for now. That looks good to me. We can do the same for anything else in the customizer, but I'm going to go ahead and remove my beard here, because I want to show you that FOIP still works when changing the structure and characteristics of my actual face. We have a lot of heads in our customizer, and I'm just going to cycle through a few of them here to show you that whatever we choose, we're still tracking and we're good to go. We can even start to manipulate individual aspects of the face, with no detriment to the mapping onto the head. FOIP won't break when you combine these heads together. So if you just want to tweak a small aspect of your character, or take on the likeness of one of the heads included, you can do so, and test out exactly how the tracking is going to look based on your face movements in the webcam. You can now see I'm someone totally different, and we're having no troubles tracking. And if I don't like what I've picked, I can always just randomize here, which I think is a great way of not only showing the countless combinations of heads that we can make, but also that FOIP will continue to work with anything that we throw at it.
What are we doing to improve the overall infrastructure behind VOIP and FOIP?
Is we're going to be updating the voice service and a total overhaul of the voice server.
But what if you're new to the game? The guide system. Are we bringing it in the game?
Yeah, of course we are. But now, how do you become a guide? So now there's going to be a list of requirements that you've got to meet. And ultimately, once you've checked that list, you can then opt in to become a guide. there are going to be rewards available for those of you that do put the effort in.
Because we like to get paid. It ties into beacons, trust, and rating systems.
So first off, tying into the guide stuff, we're adding a new type of beacon. So guide beacons. It means that if you are a guide, you'll be able to respond to them. If you need a guide, you broadcast them. And if you need a guide, you can be certain that whoever responds to them knows their stuff.
To make sure that whoever is answering my call for help is trustworthy.
So guilds contribute rewards to the payouts on service beacons, and we'll get to guilds shortly. But that could be money, reputation, or potentially other rewards as well. But if you misbehave and you fail the beacon, there's no payout for you. So that's one incentive. The other is that we're adding a proficiency rating. Responders can earn that rating by successfully completing service beacons. You go from bronze up to gold, which indicates your level of experience and success, and only the top few will be able to earn platinum status.
So what are we doing for the beacon responders? Well, we want to give you some idea of the risk you're putting yourself into by responding to the beacon. So we're adding trust rating. So if we look at this person who's looking for some help to repair here, well, you can see their last 5 recent beacons that they've broadcasted. They have 2 neutral ones. Something's gone wrong, but it wasn't necessarily bad or illegal. Then they have a red one. That's bad. They have been up to something. But they have also been successful with 2 beacons. So, well, at least you can assess the situation before going into it.
Player organization.
There are more than 70,000 organizations registered on the RSI website. Now we want to make those orgs matter in the game. Should you choose to join or create an organization, we want this social aspect to be part of your progression.
So orgs, as many of you know, the players coming together to achieve a goal, whatever you want your goals to be. We also have NPC factions, and they're already in the game, and you can earn or lose reputation with them. Now, there are also guilds, like the Interstellar Transport Guild, and these are essentially collections of several factions, and we're putting them in a position to be more prevalent.
Yeah, so welcome to the new app for everything orgs, that we like playing in different ways, and will want to join different orgs. The recruitment tab is the place to find them. So we're giving you the tools to promote your org to potential members in order to give a best first impression to them.
Anyway, yes, so we're adding filters for when you're basically trying to find a home.
We allowed you to join multiple orgs back in 2014. I can still do that, right?
Oh yeah, so we're keeping it supported, and we're actually doing the Star Citizen thing, and we're going one bigger.
One bigger.
So we're giving you an additional one to join when we actually bring it into the game too.
This is the Summary tab. On here, you can select one of your orgs that you're in on the left-hand side, and you'll see, well, a summary, a lot of at-a-glance information. Announcements and org information. Simple stuff. We're adding an events log.
Okay, we're also adding an events calendar. So by default, it's going to be populated with our in-game events, so you never miss a thing, but more importantly, you'll obviously be able to add your own as well. So you'll never miss another meetup to get together for group content.
So I can join multiple orgs, like the Buccaneers, the Corvette Club, or the Slam Truckers. But how will others see me in the verse if I have multiple choices? Surely I need to pick a banner.
So that's covered by something new called representing. And it's actually quite similar to the existing affiliation main status system on the website. So if you're in multiple orgs, you choose which one you want to represent, but you can only represent one at a time.
A big part of representing is visualizing it in-world. We want you to be able to fly your banner for your org. So we're adding another MMO staple to the game. Tags. So we'll have it in chats, in-world, and if you're not interested in this stuff, well, you have the option to turn it off as well.
Yes, so you may have spotted a few references on the UI to alignment earlier, but what is it? So, it's your opportunity to form a relationship between org and in-game guild. All of our guilds are going to have a specific theme and associated gameplay, and you can basically pick the one that matches your theme or benefits your org the most.
How do these benefits work? Well, as your alignment with a guild, as it races, You both unlock new benefits from that guild, as well as improve your previously unlocked benefits. So, for example, if I align my org with the Academy of Science guild, we might get research speed improvements. As my org performs contracts for this guild, alignment raises, and that speed benefit gets better. And needless to say, other guilds will have other types of benefits. Finally, on guild alignment, you are not locked in forever. You can switch at any time. However, that will put your alignment back at 0, so it's a big choice.
So every member gets full benefits?
Well, not necessarily. We're also introducing loyalty. So it's similar to the org's alignment with a guild, but this represents your relationship to the org you're in.
With the flow of joiners and leavers, do we have any tools to help managers like me?
Well, let's have a look at the Members tab. So this is less complex than the previous tabs, but it's equally important. This is where you see the community of your org and your place in it. So in here, you'll be able to manage members, you can leave notes, and see the ranks of members. This is the rank panel. It gives you a clear indication where you sit within the community.
So, all right, so orgs form and friendship and animosities build up. Maybe my Buccaneers and the Fellowship of JJ don't really see eye to eye most of the time. Would be great for this to translate in game, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it? You're going to have the ability to create alliances and go to war. And there are many reasons to make friends. You might want to have trading partners, or you might want to group up for protection if you're playing somewhere like Pyro. And at the same time, there are probably going to be many reasons why you won't get along. Maybe an org keeps attacking or stealing from you.
That's why alliances and rivalries tie directly into hostility indicators.
But what would it look like in the unlikely event where our two powerhouse orgs came together as one?
This is about bringing more purpose, more considerations, and more decisions to armor and clothing you wear beyond just looking cool. Specializations are the focus of your current daily adventure. That could be a daring racing, a cargo hauler, or a first responder. Specializations are a series of attributes assigned to each piece of clothing and armor in the verse to allow you to make informed decisions on both how you want to look and how you want to perform. Specializations are not assigned classes. Why are these necessary? Well, specializations enhance gameplay depth. They add a level of roleplay and immersion. Specializations can provide a sense of ownership of your playstyle. So at this point, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, how do I specialize? It starts by determining your playstyle. What do you want to do today? Are you going to be a trader, a smuggler, an assassin? Is there a void in your organization that needs filling? Once you know what you want to do, it's time to start hunting for the right gear. Specialized items are not intended to be found in any old store. You're going to have to do the legwork. It's about selecting the right combination of armor and clothing. Yes, I said it. Mixing clothing and armor is built into the very fabric of this new system. Can I get a hell yeah?
So StarWear allows more customization than ever. But be careful, certain gameplay implications will still be true. You won't be able to go into the vacuum of space without a space-worthy undersuit and helmet.
So to recap, we're going to go through adding intent and purpose to all our clothing and armor sets. As designers, we really want the visuals to match the stats that our great character art team have made. Many armors will be specialized for distinct use cases. There will be some armors that won't have EVA thrusters built into the suit, so you lose EVA capability. Some armors won't even be space-worthy. Specializations means getting better at certain things at the cost of attributes and others. So now let's look at some practical use cases for the StarWear system. Let's meet our first specialization. With magnetic plates built into many clothing items, players can now holster both primary and secondary weapons. However, in the near future, there will be locations in SC where armor and weapons are strictly prohibited. Clothing allows the player the opportunity to access these restricted areas without needing to change. And some clothing will even allow the player to conceal smaller weapons from security, should the need arise. Another new addition we're going to be introducing is flight penalties based on the mass and size of your armor and clothing. You'll still be able to fly in medium and heavy armor, but you're restricting the precision of your control. If you're in clothes like our leader is here, or a flight suit or light armor, you'll be able to fly unrestricted. Now, if we look at an overview, we've cherry-picked 6 generalized stats to give you like a high-level understanding of how various clothing and armors we specialized. This is by no means a comprehensive list of everything we have available to us. It's just a little, yeah. So here you can see the leader has low protection compared to a full suit of armor and no EVA capability, for obvious reasons, but has great movement, low emissions, allowing them to blend into bustling cities and stations. The leader really excels at freedom of movement here. Let's meet our next members. This is our pilot visor, which allows the wearer to link with their ship and cast MFDs directly into their visor. Like the leader in this situation, there'll be no penalties to flight. Plus, with added G-force resistance, the wearer will be able to get the most from out of their ship. So if we look at the pilot stats, they have fantastic mobility. Like I mentioned, great G-force resistance for when combat takes them to the limit of human endurance. And finally, this suit comes with the best EVA capability in its class for when remaining in your ship is no longer an option. Here's another variant in our flight suit class, the racing flight suit. This is what our driver will be wearing. This suit, unlike the pilot flight suit, has features which are more streamlined, which allows it to have truly unmatched G-force resistance for the hardest corners on the most challenging of racetracks. It also offers great oxygen capacity and thermal protection for those planets with hostile environments. So as you can see, this flight suit excels at G-force resistance, but it loses its protection and has much weaker EVA capability. Let's meet our next team members. We want our wearers of heavy combat armor to feel like walking tanks. The armor should provide fantastic coverage to limit any weak points they may have. Due to its mass, the armor will also feature the strongest resistance to force reactions. If the player is wearing a full set of heavy combat armor, they will not be able to be knocked down by small arms fire. For all that protection, coverage, and stability, we have some major trade-offs. You're going to lose your mobility, stamina will run out much quicker, and your movement speed is severely reduced. The majority of combat armors will also lose built-in EVA thrusters, meaning you're going to have to add additional weight to be wearing an EVA pack. Next up, we have our tracker in the heavy hunter armor. This is another suit in our heavy armor class. However, this one is aimed at less at pure combat and more about hunting its prey. This is all the armor for you bounty hunters out there. The heavy hunter armor has the most powerful active scan for hunting their targets. Its scanner outshines all others in locating infrared and electromagnetic emissions. Whilst it's still classed as heavy armor, it does mix things up, so it'll have slightly faster movement and mobility, but it loses the protection. You'll also be able to store more devices like deployables and throwables. So to compare the stats, whilst not as tough as our combat armor, it does gain an increase in mobility, and while its scanner is the best of the best, the armor is also incredibly noisy and emits powerful emissions. So while you may find your target with ease, there's a good chance that they'll know you're coming for them. If the wearer has all pieces equipped, so that's helmet, core, arms, and legs, due to its mass and the suit's material, their missions will run so low that they will be undetectable on radar. With it being light armor, no flight restrictions. So with the best stealth and fantastic speed, it's a must for any players looking to assassinate, infiltrate, or in this case, be a sniper. However, the protection provided is minimal. You don't want to be engaging in a full-on firefight in this suit. And finally, surrounding our group, we have that one friend. We've all played MMOs, right? We all know that one friend. So, we have our group.
Well, now our crew is assembled, and in a universe as big as Star Citizen, who knows what trouble they could run into. So, let's find out what they're going to face. Now, they're heading to the planet Monarchs, which is in the Pyro system. So, without further ado, this absolute monster of a creature is 300 meters long and sees your light fighters just as puny little ants. You're going to need to assemble your quickest and most nimble pilots to dodge the Valakkar's ranged attacks, as well as your fastest drivers to bait out the Valakkar from the surface. The deadly Valakkar has a variety of ways of killing possible threats. In a game like ours, how are we going to communicate the health of this creature? Well, things being physicalized is at the heart of Star Citizen. And we know how much of a large fight the Apex Valakkar is, and we need to communicate that in a diegetic way. So you'll see here the Valakkar's health from 100% to 1%. You'll see its skin getting more battered and bruised as the fight progresses, to give you an idea of where you are and how close you are. Why do you want to kill the Valakkar? Well, because it's fun, but I know you sweaty gamers, so it's got loot, also known as harvestables. The Valakkar has two very valuable harvestables. Firstly are its pearls. You'll need to mine growths on a variety of locations of Valakkar to reveal these pearls. Next is its big apex teeth. These are within its mouth, and you'll need a very strong tractor beam to be able to yank these things out. These sizes will have unique behaviors, animation, audio, and harvestables associated to each size. So for our first size, we have the juvenile. These juveniles will respond to stimulus, such as noisy footsteps and loud mining beams. This will cause them to burst out the ground and attack anyone who's disturbing them. And you'll find these in caves near valuable harvestables and minerals. So for our next size, adults. The adult Valakkars know not to pick fights and tend to remain to themselves. However, if you exterminate too many juvenile Valakkars, this will cause adults to show up, which are 3 times larger and a lot more angry. Creature sizes are great because they allow us to create varied experiences as well as show you how creatures grow and evolve in the environments they live in and grow up in. Beyond that, we have our Apex, which has the most valuable harvestables and the most deadly attacks. It's also the biggest living thing in the verse. The Valakkar is very exciting, but I also want to share with you the bigger picture for creatures. So let's start with some Valakkar variants. For example, what if the Valakkar evolved and grew in a swamp environment instead of a desert planet? Or if a Valakkar never made it to the surface and only lived in drowned caves. All of these variances and differences and new creatures make up what we call our fauna matrix. The fauna matrix is basically our creature encyclopedia. So these concepts should show you that we want to get more weird and wonderful with our creatures.
And let's start by looking up into the stars and saying hello to an old friend. This system does, however, border with Vandal space. So, visitors are being advised there are Vandal raiding parties hitting locations throughout the system. But, despite this, a small community has formed in the system, and this is on an asteroid in the belt between Nyx 2 and Nyx 3. And this asteroid is called Delamar. But actually, Delamar should be, and now is, an actual asteroid. And as it's an asteroid, the space is a zero-G location, giving a unique identity for a landing zone. So let's take a closer look at the main POI on Delamar. This used to be an old mining facility, which was mothballed and then abandoned. There is an internal network of abandoned tunnels and mine shafts, and these are now populated with refugees, fugitives, and criminals. And as Levski was made some time back, it needed to be updated so that it can fit into current gameplay features and systems and mission loops. So let's take a look at the first update, and that is to the hangars and landing services. Release the Kraken! But now has a suite of hangars that are arrayed around and inside the borehole. We're also increasing the quantity of hangars. This is to meet the ever-expanding players per server to remove hangar wait times. And for players that don't want to store their ship, docking services will be added high up on the cliff walls. Now, other than hangars and docking services, there are other ways to enter the location, which are also getting new updates. Let's take a look. And these will lead to open lander pads for quick drop-off and pickup. And we're also adding access to gameplay areas for a variety of local missions and gameplay types. Now, as this is a zero-G location, it also gives an opportunity for another type of specialist freight services. Let's take a look. There will be banks of exterior zero-G freight elevators. The same functionality is also coming to space stations in both Stanton and Pyro. The external freight elevators will now have direct access to cargo decks to be able to quickly sell or pick up for the next run. And let's jump to rainy ArcCorp. We're adding additional districts to landing zones, which are gameplay focused. These gameplay areas will interweave with the landing zone, but ultimately will be independent. So for Area 18, let me introduce you to the Municipal Works. And this will be split into two locations. The actual Municipal Works, which will be an open world sandbox area for all players, and the lower Municipal Works, known locally as the Depths. And as I said, there'll be various access points throughout the landing zone, and some will be easier to access than others. These access points will lead to transit systems, taking you deep into the underbelly, eventually reaching the Municipal Works. So down here, it's an open world sandbox for you and other players, very similar to contested zones in Pyro stations. But the main purpose is provide access to the depths. And these will be instanced areas. This gives us the ability to create tailored missions. How the depths will be split by levels. Now, stay with me on this. We're going to rattle through it quick. So let's say you're in level B01. You're running a mission, you're having a great time with the curated content I just mentioned. But down here, you'll have to do a variety of content over a period of time and over multiple play sessions. And you'll do this loop multiple times with different mission content. So this time, you head down the access point elevator, and now it takes you all the way down to level B02, and you continue on with your journey. Eventually, you'll get access to level B03, and we continue deeper. And this is what will form progression-based content. And now we're going to talk about solar systems. Stanton System was the primary system in the game. It serves as a lawful system. Then we have Pyro system, which we've spoken about at length, and this will serve as the primary unlawful system. Then, as we just saw, we have Nyx System. It's not a totally unsafe system like Pyro, but it depends on where you go, as it borders Vandal space. See that little bit of red? That's Vandal space right there. And the UEE does not protect this system. We've got a little bit of space there, haven't we? No, in order to reveal the fourth system, let me take you on a little history lesson. We're back in the height of the human-Xi'an Cold War. Tensions were at breaking point. In 2542, Armistead Perry introduced a designation line for a group of 8 planetary systems that marked the borderlands between Xi'an and human-controlled space. The United Planets of Earth designated the systems as no-fly zones and utilizing them as military staging grounds. But one system on the Perry line offered a key strategic position for a potential invasion into the Xi'an Empire. And that system was Castra. But luckily for us, war was averted, the Perry Line Pact was signed, which was a peace treaty between the now UEE and the Xi'an Empire, so the Cold War ended. The systems of the Perry Line were divided up between humans and Xi'an, and fast forward back to present day, humans and the Xi'an enjoy a more prosperous relations, and everyone's cool. Castra. Have Castra 1. Here it is. Castra 1 is a dead, coreless planet because it's too close to the sun to be terraformed for human habitation. So instead, the UEE Navy used Castra 1 for target practice, giving it the nickname of Bullseye. And as you can see, it's super toxic, meaning ground exploration will require high-end environment suits. And as you saw in the weather demo, raging storms will create difficulty of access, giving risk and rewards for adventurers seeking unique minables and other items. The second planet from the sun is called Cascom. And this was the location of the military's staging area. Since the system was opened up to non-military settlement, it has since become a center of trade and tourism, but is still considered an Earth-centric traditionalist system. And as you saw in the CTG presentation, you can see how we're going to make these worlds with the new technology. High up on the mountain range, here at the highest peak, we can just make out the landing zone called Sherman. A sneak peek. Let's take a look. dominant landmark you see in the center is Spaceport Ulysses, named after the mountain Sherman is sitting on. Commercial hangars are located inside the main trench. Over to the left of the spaceport is the Sparrows Industrial Park, home to the sprawling cargo yards and manufacturing plants. To the right side of the spaceport is Fort Riggs, which originally used to house the Army when Sherman was used as a staging point for a potential ground assault of the Xi'an Empire. Since the area was decommissioned, it has now been turned into a business park and is the governmental center of CASCOM, with the Governor's Council headquarters located here. And from all the locations we just saw, high up on the upper wall, you can see the commercial district, and specifically the Ansel shopping complex. So that's a quick overview of some of the key areas of Sherman.
Thank you. But instead of focusing on what we're creating for you, we want to show you the world that you can build. First off, crafting is a profession. It requires its own set of tools, the knowledge of how to use them. Crafting offers progression. You become a better crafter by learning new blueprints and upgrading them. Crafting provides customization. In addition, you can earn cosmetic upgrades, craft unique items. But nowhere is this versatility more obvious than base building. Well, you can't craft without materials. Luckily, we've got a lot of ways to gather resources in the game. Let's take a closer look at mining as an example. We've got hand mining and vehicle mining and ship mining. That's a lot of mining. So for instance, each type of mining will have its own unique materials to gather. Gathering specific materials efficiently will require you to use the right gathering profession. Adding crafting into the game radically changes your options. You can still mine, refine, and sell your resources, but now you have the option to make valuable and unique items. Weapons, armor, even vehicles and ships. Crafting enables you to build your own home among the stars. You choose to make a farm, a hunting lodge, an industrial complex, your own trading hub, a military outpost, even a sprawling town with your friends and org mates. Players' choices about crafting and base building will drive player trade. The community's choices will determine the value of the materials and the crafted goods you can all make. The game will still have its own shops and economy alongside players, but now you'll have more options about where you invest and how you prosper.
I'm going to tell you about the new game mechanics we're introducing, starting with blueprints. Before you can craft anything, you'll need a blueprint. Blueprints provide the recipe to perform all kinds of crafting processes, including refining. You can acquire blueprints through various activities. Some you can buy, some you can find, and some can be unlocked or earned in other ways. We have a new concept for materials, material quality. Quality is a property we're adding to all resources you can gather. All raw materials you find in the verse will have a quality rating that's generated based on some rules. But what's quality for? It's for item stats. Alongside quality, we're introducing a new item stat system to the game. We aim to have meaningful item stats for all craftable items, but some examples would be the damage and fire rate of a gun, the wear resistance of a ship component. The quality of materials will directly affect the item stats. To go even further, researching your fabrication blueprints allows you to build higher tiers of an item with improved base stats. Most items will have tiers 1 to 3. You can also craft vehicles. Let's take a look in-game at the difference it makes to have high-tier equipment made from high-quality materials. See how the recoil is reduced on our high-tier gun. The spooling is faster on a high-tier quantum drive. And a high-tier scraper beam is much more effective.
Let's bring them in. Blueprints are digital. This library is persistent to your character, and every blueprint you claim is yours forever. Blueprint research. Research requires a research data bank, which can upgrade your blueprints. Note, you will still have access to the lower tier versions if you want to craft the cheaper version. In order to upgrade a blueprint, you may need to perform certain actions. In this example, we need to craft 100-volt pistols and have one with a higher fire rate. It will take time for the research data bank to process your research data and unlock the upgrade. You are also limited in how many research projects you can pursue at once. Every blueprint you find will have unique requirements in their resource needs. If you want to have the perfect item, you also need the best quality. Once you collected the raw materials, the next step is refining them. Refining, like crafting, requires blueprints. Refining blueprints take primary, secondary, and catalyst materials and produce refined materials. The rule is very simple. The quality of the primary raw material defines the quality of the refined material. The secondary material you put in has an impact on the quantity and the time the refining process will take. An optional catalyst can speed up the process further. Let me give you a simple example. If you want high-quality steel, you need to put in the best iron you have in the primary slot. You can put any quality coal in the secondary slot without affecting the quality of the steel. But the quality of the coal will influence how much of it you need to produce steel. As an example, if you put in low-quality coal, you might require 4 SCU of coal versus high-quality coal that only requires 2 SCU. We are reaching the final step. Now you can create the item you want. And this item can be anything. Talking about crafting machines. We will have a variety for you that differ in what process they can support. I would like to talk about the future of crafting and the scale it will have in the game that you all know. Our aim is to have more than 1,000 blueprints that include the creation and the refining blueprints. And each of those can be researched to unlock tier upgrades up to tier 3 or tier 5. Crafting will have a huge impact on everything in the game.
On building our own habitable home on Pyro. To do so, we need some resources and the construction graph card. The construction graph card allows us to survey the land, claim the land in a lawful system, and it allows us to build structures. As we've already found the location and don't need to claim land in lawless Pyro, we can straight dive into building our base. Keep in mind, the following UI is work in progress. A survey drone that deploys from the top of the card gives us a controllable augmented view of the land. In the new structure mode, we'll pick a small basic structure and hit construct. For this demo, the construction will be instantaneous, but in the final product, this will take you quite some time. We can see that the lights are still off, and that is a problem, because no lights means no atmosphere, no breathable atmosphere. So it's not ideal to live in. So how do we solve this issue? We can improve this by providing the building with power. Let's see if we can build something that helps us out. In the list of new structures, we see a small fuel generator. That is something that could solve our problem, I think. Power providing structures need to be hooked up to other buildings inside construction ER mode. But we'll explain this later. The fuel generator is one of several structures that provides power, each with their own benefit and drawbacks. Fuel power is quick and easy to build, but it requires a constant supply of fuel besides its regular maintenance. Next up, we have a terminal that gives us access to the status of our building. And, more importantly, we get to activate it here. As you notice, some of the crates in the background have disappeared, as their content has been consumed during the construction process of the buildings. Wow, Declan has been busy decorating the place. As we can see, the lights are now properly working. We got atmosphere, and we can start to use the item fabricator now that there is power. The construction graph card is one of 4 devices used for base building. The graph card is a mobile device that lets you construct a variety of small structures and has been designed specifically to fit into the smallest ships, like the Drake Cutter. Let's have a look at some UI concepts of how this augmented reality mode will look like. Here's a concept of construction ER. From here, we get a more detailed view of the land. Where can and can't I settle? For an example, inside a nature reserve, construction will be prohibited. Then next up, we need to find a good place for our first structure. On the left-hand side, we can see that we're now in structure creation mode. Now that we have chosen a position for our structure, we will need to supply it with crafting materials. Let's say our building did just finish printing. All structures will have an unpowered and a powered state that we can manage inside the resource manager. We can also link multiple buildings together. What can we do next? Then we can actually upgrade our structure. Structures can be upgraded from tier 1 till tier 3. You will want to decorate your base with a wide variety of furniture pieces. Furniture can easily be placed and moved using decorative ER mode as a hologram. This is so your furniture can easily fit through doors. Decorative ER is not exclusive to base building and can also be used for personal hangars and ships.
Do you want to see a big base? Yeah! And we're going to create a base that's capable of crafting something that's bigger than the item fabricator can handle. There's been a bit of a spoiler already as to what it's going to be. So to kick us off, called in the help of a friend who has a specialized, not yet revealed base building vehicle, and he's built as this. It is the construction hub. This has 4 automated drones compared to the GravCart's 2. They can build small, medium, and large buildings. So far, we've only seen small. Automated drones are capable of building 1 structure each simultaneously, so 4 is quite a big advantage. We'll pop into our construction AR and we'll get down a generator, we'll connect some buildings together just so we have a place to call home before we begin. All right, there we go. So we've settled on one of the brand new underground resource deposits and we're about to exploit it using this. It is our extractors. This particular one is a large, solid extractor. We'll also have liquid and gas, depending on which type of deposit that you've settled on. Now we want to turn those raw resources into the more valuable refined materials. We saw the process talked about earlier with Thorsten. Of course we want this, it is our refinery. This is a terminal where you'd select which blueprint you want to use and therefore which type of refining method you want. A lot of crates here with our extractor and our refinery, so we're going to put down our elevator storage. And with base building, we're introducing the concept of a freight elevator network. What this will allow you to do is it will allow you to link multiple freight elevators together, and in turn they will share the same storage. So as we're doing here, we'll deposit an item on freight elevator A, and then we're retrieving it on freight elevator B. There is a distance limit, but you can daisy chain the elevators together to extend that, and it has to all be contained within the same base. Now as we expand, we might want to invite more people to join us. This is easy to do. There will be permissions that we can set up, granting people access to our base, and they can even build their own structures if they wish. We can also give them access to existing structures, which is how you can form your org storage using those freight elevators. Now, we always want a safe place to store our ships, so the trusty hangar will do. However, there is one final piece of the puzzle that we need to achieve our goal, and it is this, our very own fabrication hangar. Looks like whatever it is, it's just about finished crafting. Of course, we were going to build ourselves a ship. Because they are a crafted item, they can also be sold to other players. And there's two main ways you can do this. The first is using a dedicated trading terminal. You can link these to your freight elevators, and in turn, any items within can be listed for sale at a price you deem reasonable. This includes resources, refined materials, and so on. Using the terminal, visiting players can browse what's on offer, purchase, and then collect from that same freight elevator. The second method is to set up a physical shop in the world. By using the decorator AR we saw earlier with Luke, you can maglock items and then list them for sale. Once again, browsing players, they can see the price of the maglocked item, purchase it, which then removes the maglock. We've talked about selling items that sell the look of your base. We have foundation tiles, which can help you divide up the foundation decals, which help you divide up the foundation tile. You can place them freely wherever you want, and they just help you mark up areas like, I want to use this place for cargo, I want this for housing, vehicles, and so on. You'll be able to earn paint in-game and apply them to buildings. If you're part of an org, the blue buildings that have your name are definitely yours. We have some forms of base building which are either still in the design phase. A few more additional archetypes. We have landing pads, garages, roads, fencing, as well as new variants of structures which we've seen today. For instance, the power generator, there'll be solar power, fusion, geothermal, as well as the XL structure class. So if you remember, everything we've seen today, the biggest we've seen today rather, is large. XL is larger than large. And then you have your defense. In lawful areas, you have varying levels of security provided for you. With max security, you are protected by planetary shield tech. However, in lawless, Pyro and the likes, you'll have to provide your own defenses. These come in the form of perimeter walls, shielding, which prevents aerial bombardments, and then a range of automated turrets, such as PDC to shoot down missiles, anti-air, anti-vehicle, and anti-personnel. Entire time talking about how you can expand a single base. You can, of course, have multiple. These can be across a single planet, moons, across multiple systems. There are advantages and disadvantages of locations and base types. But before we go, we have one final video.
John Crew, you're saved. Come on out, John Crew.
Today, we're going to be talking about the vehicles to build your universe. Construction grav cart. You're going to need a ship to put it in. It can't carry supplies by itself, so you're going to need to put supplies in the ship, move them. And it has small drones. And drones will have sizes.
We've had a look at the small. So what's next? What do you want to build? A medium?
So we have the CSV FM, which stands for Fabrication Module. So this has 2 medium drones on board. And we built it to fit in as many vehicles as we could practically get it to fit in. So about the size of a Tumbril Cyclone. So if you can put a Cyclone in a vehicle, you could put one of these in it.
But what if you want to go bigger?
Bigger?
Bigger. OK. Yeah, the Star Lancer is basically a whole new family of vehicles from MISC, and these are covering a range of different roles. Today, we're going to be talking about the first 3, which are the build, which kind of makes sense. And that basically is for all your large structural construction needs.
So this is the Starlancer build from the outside. The key thing to take away here is you'll see it has the drone bays on each side, and then it has the drone resupply arms for allowing the drones to come back and resupply. Inside that room, you have the drone control center. So you have a single station inside. There are 2 large drones held on each side of the room, so 4 large drones in total. And then there are 2 filler stations right at the front here, and these each hold 16 SCU of capacity, which can then go and load the internal resource tank to feed the drones. It holds 4 large construction drones. It's 83 meters long, 52 meters wide, 15 tall. 2 S4 guns for the pilots, 16 missiles, remote turrets, and then 128 SU of cargo capacity in the build specifically. We have talked small drones, medium drones, large drones. What about bigger things? This is obviously the original concept for the Pioneer. This doesn't work anymore. So we need to do a little bit of some reconcepting.
It needs to support all the updated kind of building mechanics. It needs to support all our current metrics. And
holds 4 extra large drones. And if you're interested in finding out what extra large drones can build, I highly recommend sticking around for the next presentation. It's about 20% bigger. I know the jokes, we always make ships bigger, but to fit all that in, it needed it. It can craft small ships and vehicles. And one thing we didn't show in that video is the landing gear actually have integrated ground resource extractors in. So when you find your plot, you land your ship and you can start extracting the resources from it. When base building comes out, this will not be there day 1 of it. But we are starting this in the next week or 2. Can't just leave without teasing a little bit more. So
And we want a game that everyone can just get into at the beginning, understand it, have fun, pulls you into it, and then has a huge amount of depth. So the question is, what is that? And that is what we call Star Citizen 1.0. Rich Tyrer, who's our senior game director, is going to come out with a few of our other directors, and we'll lead you through what 1.0 will be. So without further ado, Rich Tyrer.
What type of game is Star Citizen? Firstly, what about 4.0? Where does that fit in? Well, 4.0 is the patch that contains server meshing and Pyro. And fundamentally, it's an alpha development patch, which means it's adding further tech, features, and content to our alpha version of the game. Today, though, is beyond 4.0, all the way to 1.0. And the big difference is that 1.0 is the full release of the game. The 1 means we're committing to higher base performance and minimal bugs. No longer will we reference that the game is in development. This will be a fully released and polished experience. It means fully rounded gameplay loops, from new player experience to story missions and endgame content. And crucially, it means no more resets between patches. So if that's the 1, what about the .0? Well, it's just as important. It means we're still committed to continued development, with new content and features being planned post 1.0. But those features will no longer be tier 0. We'll be committing to a higher benchmark of quality for each patch, and most importantly, it's a moment in time. If there is a content, feature, or star system that we've mentioned in the past that is not in 1.0, it just means it will come later. 1.0 is more than just a number change. It's the beginning of a new phase of development of the game. Okay, so we know what the 1 is and the .0, but before we move on, I want to address one important point. And for this, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. Here we are, the Kickstarter. As a backer myself, it brings back memories. And it also reminds me we had a lot of stretch goals. And one of those goals was 100 star systems. But, and there is a but, the star systems of old are not the star systems of today. They were based on the privateer and freelancer model. They were unexplorable planets with an isolated and small landing zone and had automated landings. And we all know how that went. To give you an idea, Stanton had 4 points of interest, and the entire 100 systems only had 90 POIs. Compare that to Stanton today, and we have 1,626 points of interest. And that is going to be dwarfed once we start using the Starchitect tool. Well, we will not be launching with 100 star systems, because the game we have today was not just the game that was pitched back then. It's more rich, it's more diverse, and fundamentally, you'll be getting a whole lot more, and I mean a lot more. Okay, so now I've defined what 1.0 is, let's get into the cool stuff. Star Citizen, by its very nature, is a sandbox MMO. Today, you as a player have to find the fun. You have to figure out what you can do and how to do it. If you want to be a hauler or salvager, you have to know those professions exist. You have to know what ships support that gameplay. And you have to rely on outside resources for help. As it is now, the game is not set up to help you. So we're going to add a soft framework, a nervous system, that connects all the professions, ships, and content together. And to do this, we're going to add a main story. To help new and existing players, to help discover all the exciting features and content we have, to take them on a journey of discovery of what the game has to offer. This story will become the spine of the universe and help onboard players with understanding how to play the game and understand what's available to them. This story will also introduce each of our guilds and what professions we have to offer. Like the United Resource Workers, our core industrial guild, which supports 2 of our main professions, mining and salvaging. They also support many other features and professions, like repair technician, crafter, and builder. Guilds are hugely important in Star Citizen, and as you know by now, guilds are comprised of many factions. As you work for each of these factions, you will gain guild reputation. You can then use this reputation as a currency to purchase guild-affiliated rewards, like ships, blueprints, and items. And each guild will have a unique inventory of what they offer. Alongside economic growth, guild reputation will become a core progression of the game. And to talk more about guilds and our main story, I'd like to introduce David Haddock onto the stage, our very own narrative director.
The main story, so let's get into it. What exactly is that? First, it's a narrative experience. This will be a crafted story through the star systems and professions of the Star Citizen universe, taking players on an exciting adventure that will finally kick off the growing tension between Earth and Terra. Yeah. It will be NPC-driven. So while Squadron 42 will always be the place to go for AAA cinematic adventure, we're bringing a lot of the techniques that we learned from that to capture and build a cast of dynamic characters, some of which may be familiar, for both this story and the PU. And the main story is also designed to be sort of like a tour bus structure where you can hop on and hop off at any time you want to. So we're not also requiring you to do it. So if you want to log in day one and just go off and do your thing, you can do that. Or maybe you want to put the story on hold so you can go explore a new facet of gameplay that you just discovered. Go for it. The point is that you can complete it at your own pace. So that's the what. So why do you want to do this? What's the motivation to want to go on this ride? Like Rich said, for new players, it's a great way to ease into sort of the vast lore that we've been developing over 12 years. The gameplay, the locations that the game has to offer, and also give you a sense of upcoming stories that are about to come. But you've been playing Star Citizen for years. You probably know the lore better than me. So what's in it for you? Now, of course, we'll have rewards along the way as you complete missions and whatnot, but we're finally going to offer a big prize for completing the story. Citizenship. Citizens will be able to purchase land anywhere in the UEE and enjoy the security that comes with it, but civilians will have a couple of restrictions as to which systems and which planets they can buy on. 1.0 is going to include 5-star systems. This story is going to weave you through all of them, but where exactly are you going to go? First, we've got Stanton, which needs very little introduction. I'm sure you're all very intimately familiar with these 4 corporate-run worlds. But since I do lore, I figure I could take the next hour and just walk through each one of these. But I'm kidding. We've also got Pyro, Land of the Lawless. A volatile star at the center of the system is the perfect metaphor for the constant struggle between the gangs and survivors trying to hack out an existence here. If you saw Ian's location presentation yesterday, then you know that he reintroduced Nyx System. There's another unclaimed system that's currently home to the People's Alliance, a wannabe independent government formed during the Messer era, but now struggling with the burdens of governance, a growing outlaw presence, and a new threat on their doorstep from Vandal raids. Ian also made another big announcement of our 4th system, Castra. Situated along the former Perry line, this was a key strategic system to launch an attack if the Cold War between the humans and the Xi'an ever escalated. So that's 4. Do you guys want to know 5? Yeah. We're finally doing it. Considered by many to be the new jewel of the Empire, Terra has been a shining star against the more imperialistic tendencies of Earth, even in the darkest days of the Messer regime. Now, many believe that Terra should be the new center of the UEE. I don't know how you all feel about that. Yeah, a lot of division. But that's our starting 5. Each system and each planet will be featuring the massive level of outposts, POIs, stations, biomes, and exploration options that we've been perfecting with Stanton and Pyro, and you've been seeing in some of the other presentations this weekend. But we're adding one more level. We're also going to be adding location stories. Now, these will be short, NPC-driven missions sprinkled across our landing zones and cities that will exist outside of the main story, but will help provide an additional bit of lore and character to the location that they take place in. So, that's our main story. Let's talk more about the guilds that Rich mentioned. First, a quick recap. Guilds act as a governing body for clusters of professions and factions with a reputation and progression system that will offer rewards the more you work for them. And I want to call out 2 things. One, I'm not going to have time to dive into all of the missions that you're going to see on this board, but just know that every mission type is either in the 1.0 roadmap or already in production. And second, we're also looking to move missions away from the Moby Glass whenever possible. Sure, it will always be an easy way for us to get additional game content in, but we want you talking with people. We're going to be adding characters to represent the factions that you'll be working for that will help sell their personality. Now, some, they'll still interact with you via the written word, but some will call and check in on your performance. And others, you may have to meet in person from time to time. So, let's walk through them. Here we have the first guild that Rich showed, the United Resource Workers. Whether you're eager to earn credits, mining valuable resources from remote corners of the universe, sifting through detritus to try and salvage some valuable components, or even just acting as a technician. You'll find plenty to do with employers like Shubin Interstellar, United Wayfarers Club, and more. Next, you have one of the oldest unions in the UEE, the Interstellar Transport Guild. This will be the go-to place for everybody looking to make their fortune hauling and trading. Some of the factions that many of you already work for now, such as Ling Family Hauling, Redwind, and FTL. And we're going to be adding something special for the daredevils out there, the Imperial Sports Federation. So aside from the usual racetracks that are both legitimate and illegitimate, we're actually going to be leveraging some of our existing mechanics to build new sports and provide an outlet for all you Murray Cup enthusiasts, Cargo Olympians, and competitors to see just who's the best out there. For those who dream of exploring, this is a science guild that will include factions like the Imperial Cartography Center, who will task you with a variety of missions to better understand our universe, such as sending you into a nebula to do deep scans, or finally seeing what's at the bottom of that planetary canyon. We're going to have a new faction called High Point Wilderness Specialists, who will offer missions associated with the various fauna that we're starting to get into the game, from population control missions to harvesting specific resources for research. Now, I don't know if we have some people who'd like to do combat, but our combat guilds were doing something a little different. Now, previous to this, these were all of our profession guilds. But for our combat guilds, they operate a little differently. See, these two are diametrically opposed to each other. So once you pledge allegiance to one, the other marks you as an enemy. On the lawful side, we have the Mercenary Guild. They represent factions like Eckhart Security, the Bounty Hunters Guild, and even some military contractors. So whether you're pulling together a team of specialists to go assault a ground base, hunting down an elusive criminal, or putting together a recon run to drum up some intel, Mercenary Guild's got you covered. On the flip side, we have the Council. Now, this is a shadowy group comprised of representatives from various gangs, syndicates, and outlaws who mandate criminal activity throughout the verse. You'll be able to throw in with rough-and-tumble gangs like the Headhunters and the Dead Saints, or work your way up to join highline criminal syndicates like the Atonis or the Drop Kings. But remember, the underworld is a dangerous place run by greed and power. So Mercenary Guild reps might not be the only people you have to worry about, as the syndicates are always looking for loyal soldiers who will hurt their competition and tip the scales of power in their favor. So as you can see, there's going to be a universe of exciting storytelling opportunities for you to undertake in 1.0. But one more thing, we're also going to revitalize our social behaviors to make the populations not only feel more alive and reactive and off chairs, but better reflect the tone and flavor of the areas that they're inhabiting. We want to see the people of Lorville slowly trudging through the streets, overburdened by the ruthless contracts, just as much as we want to see the tourists of Orison gleefully moving from attraction to attraction. And all of this is what's going to make Star Citizen be the experience we set out to make. A diverse universe with a rich tapestry of stories, characters, and experiences for you to live in.
So we have a main story to connect the universe. We have all the guilds and their associated professions. And we have location stories to give the world depth and life. Crucially, though, we have a new core progression in the game, guild reputation. But what about our other core progression in the game? The economy. So, as we've discussed before, we'll be implementing a Star Sim-powered dynamic economy that will automatically adjust the in-game prices based on player activity. But for credits to actually matter, though, we need to have an economy where credits flow out as well as in. This means transactions such as repairing, refueling, and restocking need to have value. If everything is too cheap and the money coming into the economy is too great, we'll have massive inflation. And this is where taxes and insurance come in. We'll have two main taxes: inheritance tax as part of Death of a Spaceman, and security tax for your base that will cover the cost of planetary shield tech. Insurance, on the other hand, will be split between medical insurance, which covers your hospital imprints, And probably the most important one of all, ship insurance. Now, as we have death of a spaceman, we also need death of a spaceship. Losing your ship should be significant. And this is where ship insurance and our new warranty mechanic comes in. First up, we'll have 3 tiers of insurance, with level 1 being chassis insurance, level 2, chassis and component insurance, and level 3, chassis, component, and decorations insurance. Now, insurance by itself will only pay out credits based on the wear and age of your ship. Insurance with a warranty, though, will give you back a new ship, plus any other equipment or decorations based on the tier of insurance you had. Okay, so this is the bit you need to listen to. All ships bought on the pledge store will come with a permanent warranty and their appropriate insurance. This means you will always get your ships back if they're attributed to your account. Other ships, on the other hand, will require a transferable warranty, and these are rare. You'll be able to earn transferable warranties in-game, such as by completing the main story, as an example, and apply them to any of the ships you own. But there will be a cooldown for transferring it between ships, so choose wisely. Now, what about claim timers? It's another fun topic. And getting your ship back without a claim. Well, we want claim timers to be proportional to the crafting timers. This means it's more beneficial for you to go back and get your original ship. For this, we're going to be introducing a shuttle ship, just like a courtesy car. You'll be able to claim the shuttle at no extra cost to most locations, and then fly it back to your original ship. Once back in your ship, the shuttle will automatically return home. If your ship has been legitimately lost, though, then you'll need to claim it back. And as we'll be increasing claim timers, this will mean some ships will take longer than others, with starter or small ships always being readily available, and larger capital-sized ships taking a long time. So it's always better to try and get your ship back if possible. Okay, so we've talked about our 2 core progressions, but what does that mean to you as a player? Well, firstly, it means we have a framework where we can start creating cyclical gameplay loops. But what are they? Let me show you. Okay, so right now in live, if you have a prospector, you probably enjoy mining. And the reward for mining is credits and the enjoyment of the activity. But in 1.0, you might be mining for a whole different reason. And this is where cyclical gameplay loops come in. Firstly, let's add all the manufacturers and ships in. I'll just give you a moment to take that in, because there's a lot. I actually had to ask them to take the variants out, because it didn't fit on this slide. And let's zoom all the way into the prospector, a stalwart of the mining community. But let's say I really fancy acquiring a military Mark II Hornet. Let's go on a simplified journey of how I could get one. Firstly, I know I won't be able to buy it, as it's a military ship, so I'm going to need to craft it. That means I will need the fabrication hangar blueprint. Luckily, I can earn it by doing mining missions to gain rep with the United Resource Workers, and I already have the perfect ship, my trusty prospector. With blueprint in hand and some excess credits, I can now purchase a small plot of land on Stanton and build my fabrication hangar. Step 1, complete. Now I need to grab the Mark II Hornet blueprint. For this, I need mercenary rep, and more importantly, a combat ship. With that in mind, I will do a few more mining contracts to earn enough credits to purchase a Mustang from the dealership. Now I can start doing combat pilot missions for the Mercenary Guild, so I can unlock the Mark II Hornet blueprint. Okay, step 2 of our simplified loop is complete. I have the Mark II blueprint, but I need the resources to craft it. So I come full circle back to my prospector, but this time I'm mining for resources instead. As you can see, this closes the loop. No longer am I mining just because I like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But now I am mining for a purpose and for multiple reasons. For credits, for reputation, for resources, for blueprints, and ultimately as a stepping stone to crafting my own ships to enjoy other professions. And this is just one of many loops. This is the core of Star System 1.0. Player set goals that weave between sandbox gameplay and the soft framework we are adding that give meaning and progression to our professions and features. It's providing the framework for motivation to play the game. That's the journey, though. What about the destination? So Dave has already discussed citizenship and the main story, so let's collapse that for now. Let's talk about endgame content. The content that is designed for experienced players and keeps them engaged. Basically everyone in this room. So how does that look in 1.0? Firstly, we'll have open world content, including missions, group missions, and server-wide events, like we have today, but tailored to endgame players. While the sandbox element of Star Citizen will allow for large-scale battles, we also want to provide challenging instanced content that will take full advantage of not only multi-crew ships, but fleets of ships. And you kind of know how we do that, right? You saw that yesterday. And as you progress through the guilds, you'll be able to accept high-level contracts from government agencies who will offer prototype and military blueprints as rewards. These missions will require the full coordination of multiple players and an assorted fleet of capital, support, and fighter ships. You will finally be able to become the admiral of the fleet, directing your armada from your hologlobe, which, yes, is a feature included in 1.0. We will also be offering more specialized on-foot missions that see you enter the depths of distribution centers and municipal works in small, tight-knit squads that provide an outlet for our more FPS-focused players. On top of all this will sit a dynamic layer powered by StarSim. While StarSim will be the driving force in our dynamic economy, it will also track player and AI activity and dynamically spawn events based on their actions. For example, if it tracks large amounts of resources being moved from one home location to another, it will have a chance to spawn pirates to intercept. All this combined will provide just a portion of the endgame experience, and I'd love to delve deeper, but that's for another day, as we still have a lot to show. So we've discussed non-combat professions and guilds, cyclical gameplay loops, and endgame PvE content. But what about PvP? What about player versus player content? As you know, 1.0 will contain 5 star systems, 3 of these being lawful in Stanton, Castra, and Terra, and 2 of them being unlawful in Pyro and Nyx. So what's the difference? Let's take a look at Stanton. Lawful systems will be a mixture of high, medium, and low security areas. Each of these areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies. And depending on the location, will dictate the emergency response time, with high-sec areas being the fastest. Initially, this response will be measured, but over time will escalate to overwhelming force. This means if someone is attacked, if they can just hold out for a short duration, help will be on the way. Pirates will be able to disrupt this monitoring by shutting down the nearby comm arrays, but this will be highlighted in your star map, with dynamic missions being generated to bring it back online. But this is the PvP you already know and experience right now, just without security forces. But before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options you have if you pirate a ship. Okay, so first up, let's discuss ownership. All ships and high-value items that you own will automatically be assigned to you. This means if someone steals your ship, you can mark it as stolen, either via an insurance claim or in your Mobi. This will then trigger a dead man switch on the stolen ship, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. But what options does this leave as a pirate? Well, you can still salvage it. You can tow it back to your fabrication hangar to dismantle it for resources. Or if you have a high enough rep with the council, our criminal guild, you can get the dead man switch disabled and pay for a new title deed to become its new owner. Also, if you're in a lawful system, you'll need to find a transient jump tunnel, as all major locations and POIs will have custom security that will scan you on arrival. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's look at the unlawful system in Pyro. Unlawful systems have no laws at all, and with that comes opportunity. Pyro, as an example, has an abundance of high-quality resources and is a hotbed of criminal activity, the literal definition of high risk, high reward. With crafting now requiring resources, you're going to want to create bases to mine and extract them. This is where base raiding will become a new form of PvP, and it's founded on a combined arms ethos. Defending players will be able to add defenses such as walls, automated turrets, and most importantly, ground shields, a localized version of the planetary shields used in lawful systems that absorb the most powerful of weaponry. No longer can you just turn up and drop a Moab. One huge difference, though, compared to planetary shields, is that these shields can be disabled. You will have to strategically assess each base and punch your way through its defenses on foot to eventually bring down the shield generator. Once the shield is down, then you have options. You want to raise it to the ground, you can bomb it from the air. If you want to extract all the resources, though, you'll need to infiltrate the base using explosive charges and hacking while fighting off the defenders. Now, both piracy and base raiding is founded on sandbox gameplay. And again, that's the essence of Star Citizen. But we want to add more. Something where you can log on and immediately find the action and fight for a purpose. So first up, let's go on a history lesson. In the early 2600s, there was a fledgling corporation called SEAL that had developed a new system-wide planetary shield technology, the same technology that will provide protection for your bases today. To prove this tech, they wanted to use Nyx and Pyro systems as a testbed. With the promise of high-quality resources, SEAL lured independent miners to man the shield network in exchange for shield protection for their settlements. As a prototype, SEAL couldn't provide total coverage over all the mining settlements, and so they created the SEAL Tokens program, allowing the most industrious factions to purchase shield coverage for their work. The network consisted of multiple linked bases on the ground that then linked to several stations in orbit around each planet that then connected to the nearest relay in the shield network, which eventually linked back to the shield core, which oversaw system-wide distribution of the shield technology. Factions could then earn SEAL tokens for working on any part of the network. They could then use these tokens to buy shield coverage, but with the competition amongst factions being so intense, SEAL was only able to offer shielding to the hardest workers. Unfortunately, due to outlaw interference, SEAL eventually pulled out of Pyro and Nyx and pushed for a more automated solution in more civilized systems. So fast forward to present day, without SEAL's backing, they had to pull out and leave it as it is. And welcome to station warfare. With the SEAL network still in place, but lacking resources, orgs can take ownership of these structures to gain access to planetary shield tech, which, as you know, would make their bases invulnerable. Unfortunately, there's a catch. There isn't enough to go around. And as in the good old SEAL days, the system still works via the SEAL token program. To earn tokens, you'll have to assault a location and then deposit resources to power the network. This begins with ground bases and ends at the shield core. Each structure occupied will then accrue SEAL tokens over time, with larger structures earning more, and at the end of each week, you must then use these tokens to purchase shield protection. With shield coverage being limited, though, the system automatically selects the orgs with the highest bid from across all shards. Meaning for that week only, a certain number of orgs will gain access to shield protection. So this is a chance for your org to become the de facto leader of a system. It means you'll be able to log on and immediately find the action and fight for your org. And finally, it's not just sandbox PvP or ganking. You are fighting for a purpose. So once you've won your bid, what then? Well, to talk more about that, I'd like to welcome Ian Leyland, Star Citizen's creative director, to the stage.
So to continue the conversation of large-scale endgame org activities, let's go back to Pyro 3, where the ground bases were being built earlier today. This morning, we saw the small habitat being built by Luke. And then we saw Deck start to expand the base into a commercial enterprise. But eventually, we saw a massive example of an org base. But with everything Rich was talking about, with org system-wide activities, we want to give you guys the ultimate end goal. But also the thing we need to protect. And to do that, let's look up into the sky and see what it is. Let me introduce you to player space stations. Finally, you can build your home amongst the stars. This will be the starting point for your base of operations for system-wide org activities. But why is this an end goal? Well, first of all, to construct your own space station, it's going to require vast quantities of resources and materials. And also will be a large time investment. But how do we start? Well, it all starts with the supply bay. And the supply bay can only be constructed by the pioneer. Once it's created, the supply bay then handles the creation of the station itself. Now, we're in gray box development phase, so the artwork's not final, but let's go on a journey and start building our space base. So as you saw, the cargo grid of the supply bay consumes resources, and the required resources will be substantial and will need to be topped up over time. So this means orgs will be encouraged to have efficient logistic networks to feed the supply bay. The supply bay has automated construction zones, which are used to create the station. And unlike ground bases, many drones are used at once to create the base. Once the station is built, the supply bay then integrates into the station itself. So here we are. We've built our core station module, and it's big. And out of the box, the station comes readily built with some core functionality. Let me talk you through it. Right on the top is the bridge, which is the command deck. This is where all further construction is going to be managed. From here, we can then monitor the status of the entire station. We have access to power and water management. Power and cooling is something you'll need to consider carefully. It also is an area to set permissions for who can enter particular areas, either divided by the ranks of the org itself or open to the public. And there'll be a radar station to track the activity outside the base. And the terminals to access logs of who has visited the station and see what they did. So let's jump back in game and take a stroll through our bridge. Super awesome. The back of the bridge leads to a centralized transit network. This spine physically connects the entire station and will provide access to the various decks. Each level in the station will have a centralized lobby area, and this is your station. You'll be able to use the decorator mode, so you'll have plenty of space to theme it however you want. And speaking of having plenty of space, this space station will have a one-to-one interior layout matching the exterior. No magic elevators. As you can see, right at the bottom of the central transit system leads to the lower areas. This is where you'll gain access to the engineering deck. So like bigger ships, this is where all the hands-on engineering and maintenance gameplay happens. This will serve as the beating heart of your station. Then we have the hangar deck. And as the name implies, this is where you'll gain access to your hangar network. The base station comes with a large hangar already built, along with 2 docking collars, and also empty slots for another 2 medium hangars when needed. There will be a vast network of internal road systems, meaning you can quickly drive from one hangar to the other. No elevators needed. So your station hangar will offer some enhanced logistics. For example, there'll be spaces for several freight elevators. And there'll be empty modules for open ship parking for vehicles and vehicles and ground vehicles. And there'll be also exit points where you can simply drive out into your station. Then there'll be also an upper level for the observation deck. From the observation deck, you'll have a control room, and from here, you'll have master control over the freight elevators and the vehicle elevators. This means that even before someone has landed, their new cargo can be up into the hangar and ready to be loaded up. Now, everything we've spoken about so far is what comes with your station. Let's talk about what you can do to expand it. As I mentioned before, the station comes with a predetermined interior network of corridors and roads. And in this network, you'll find an array of bulkhead connectors. Bulkhead connectors will come in tiers 1 to 3, which drives the size of room you're able to build. In the interior build mode, this is where you start to expand the interior of your station. The rooms will require resource and time to construct, and once built, you can rename each room, which will be reflected in the station's minimap. The interior of your station will have ample areas for you to expand. You can build generic empty rooms, and you can fill with items to your heart's content. You can also build specialist rooms, where the theme and functionality is already set for you, such as mess halls or infirmaries or generator rooms. And of course, there are shops. So similar to the small shops we built around the ground base, this is on a much bigger scale. But that's just the interior. Let's talk about the exterior. On the exterior, we have minor hard points. These are attachment points located on the upper and lower surfaces of the station. Using build mode, you can customize your station with a variety of modules, which tailor it to specific functionality. Some modules cater towards resource collection, such as gas harvesters, while others are geared towards defense, like shields or turrets. This goes back to bridge operations of power management. A situation may arise where power priority is needed. Then we have major hardpoints. The core station module comes with 2 hardpoint connectors. Major hardpoints are used to connect substantial wing additions to your station. The first example is the cargo wing. The cargo wing will dramatically increase your inventory capacity. So this is ideal for orgs who are specializing in hauling. Then we have the refinery wing. So you'll be able to refine resources on a vast scale. As it's in space, it's much more convenient than traveling to a ground base. Now, a player could buy resources from your cargo wing and then refine it directly in the refinery wing. And finally, we have the hangar wing. So, the bigger your fleet, the more hangars you'll want. There'll be a variety of hangar sizes as well as docking collars to help organize your fleet's deployment. All major hardpoint wings are connected via struts, and like the rest of the station, the struts are also internally traversable. Okay, so let's recap on the exterior expansion wings. Minor hardpoints give us options on how to collect resources or provide automated defenses for your base. Major hardpoints gives us options on how you can specialize your base. Let's jump back in game and see how our base is getting on. Looking cool. Customization is just as important as expansion. Similar to ground bases, you'll be able to earn tints for your station, and you'll be able to apply decals for your org logos. Outside of minor and major hardpoints, your station will come with 2 unique base expansion points. One on the top side behind the bridge, and one on the underside. The top side will be for the crow's nest. Now, all the other modules built so far have very specific functionality, but I'll admit, this is for the org members out there who want the ultimate in personal space. Super cool. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Now let's talk about the underside. This is going to be for the flight deck, which also comes with an additional 3 major hardpoints. The flight deck is perfect for your rapid reaction forces. It's ideal for fighters, but big enough to fit most ships. It's the perfect home for your station's defensive air wing. And just like the hangars, there'll be an observation deck which can override freight elevators, making rearming quicker and easier during operations. So an org with a tight flight deck crew can be substantially more efficient than others. Now, this one's my favorite. Let's take a look. There's a few little Easter eggs in that video. But why do you need a flight deck for your rapid defenses force? Well, if you've built your super awesome station in a super lawless system, now you're the potential targets for others. Everyone will have their eyes on your resources and wonder what gear you've got in your inventories. And let's say we didn't win the station warfare bid that Rich mentioned. Let's take a look at the inevitable. Okay, so not only is your station a staging area for offensive campaigns, it's also a defensive fortress. The exterior of the station itself can take quite a beating. It's going to be very hard to damage. So the goal of attackers instead will be to punch a hole through the defenses and get inside. The optimal way to do this will be to infiltrate through the flight deck or EVA hatches and work your way up. Once inside, Yes. Once inside, and you've cleared out a hangar, you may also want to consider airlifting in a tank or two to clear some corridors. Raiders will have to hack freight elevators or bulkheads in order to gain access. And of course, bring enough ships with them to start hauling out the loot. Gaining control of the bridge will allow access to storage, which would otherwise be unhackable. So, as a defender, there are a variety of automated defenses you're able to install internally within the station, such as blast doors, which seal shut, systems to be breached, and a range of turrets like anti-vehicle or anti-personnel. These will all help slow down the attack and give time for your reinforcements to show up. So let's do a final recap. This is one of the end game goals for dedicated orgs, and will be your base of operations for system-wide activities. The station can be customized both in the interior and the exterior, meaning you can tailor it to your own requirements. And it's your very own home amongst the stars. But wait. But wait. There's one more unique module we can build, and that is the dry dock. This unique slot will be at the back of the station. It has its very own dedicated observation room with crafting stations, and has a transit tram which runs along the inside of the arms, leading to the docking collars where your ship will be constructed. So, the only question still remains: what sizes of ship can we build?
I'll just watch the end of the show. That's great. I want to see the reaction.
Multiple stations linking and dry docks to craft your very own capital ships. The ultimate end goal for any org. Okay, so let's take a step back. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned we had 3 types of players and 1 universe. And hopefully you can see we have purposeful gameplay catering to each type of player. But that wasn't the only goal. It was to build a game that connected all 3 together cohesively. And this is where you come in. The community, the lifeblood of Star Citizen. Whether you're a PvE player delving for unique crafting blueprints, a non-combat player mining for high-quality resources or building a base with your friends, or a PvP player fighting for your org in station warfare to protect your base. Each one of you supports each other. You need the blueprints to craft, you need the resources to make them, and you need the equipment and protection to be safe. This is what Star Citizen is. It's a universe that caters to all players. Today was to reaffirm what type of game we are making. Welcome, Chris Roberts.
Yeah, ahead of schedule.
Yeah. I was going
1:30.
I don't know. Oh, you don't need this, right?
Well, then they're going to scroll it. Well, thanks. Thanks, Rich. Rich, Dave, and Ian, I hope you guys and girls loved what you saw there. It's having a definitive line in the sand is incredibly empowering for the whole team, and I think for all of you guys in the community. As I said, in introducing the presentation, we will never stop growing Star Citizen, even past 1.0. And part of what makes Star Citizen so special is the symbiotic relationship between you guys, the community, and us, the developers. And I know I can be accused of feature creep, but you only need to look at Spectrum, Reddit, and Discord to see countless great ideas and suggestions that come from people playing a live alpha and seeing areas that the game can grow and improve. And often we take these on board because they will make the game better. And in some ways, while you could say Star Citizen is a Chris Roberts game, I would say it's all our game. The developers, the community, building the game, we're all building this dream game together. And
Our command have confirmed that we don't just go around operations. Running down to
This is an SSN news flash, delivering the news you need. A statement issued by the VOIP Naval High Command Office has revealed that a Vandal incursion into the has been stopped. Newsflash. More coverage.
Last year, we announced that Squadron 42 is feature complete. So what has the team been doing since? Given the scale and ambition of Squadron, our teams have been focused on polishing and optimizing to ensure the game meets the high standards that I have, the team has, and you guys have. This level of quality does take time, and we're committed to delivering an experience worthy of the journey. So I'm not sure if we've officially talked about gameplay time, but the story on a regular playthrough is anywhere to 30 to 40 hours in length. To show you, we thought it would be best to boot up the game and start at the beginning. Quite a few people want us to play a pre-recorded video where we played it safely offline, but that's not our style. We are going to play this live. I've played it through many times, flawlessly not crashed, sorry. Occasionally, we've had a few, so if something happens, it happens. But fingers crossed. But what you're about to see is the prologue of Squadron 42's and you, the player's origin story. And you can think of it sort of like the opening of Gladiator, but even more epic. So to take us on this live journey, I would like to bring Richard Tyrer, Senior Game Director, to the stage to play the game.
Okay. So as Chris says, this is going to be playing it as a natural playthrough with, hopefully we don't run into any issues, but we'll go from there. And this, what you're seeing here, is the Combat Pilot Training application form that we're going to submit for your application. But once we get into the game, I'll kind of be quiet and just let the game speak for itself.
It is not about piloting the most cutting-edge ships, or traveling to the farthest reaches.
So should we go rookie? No, Legatus? Which one? Yeah, let's do it.
7 Bravo Echo for immediate tasking.
Copy that. On our way.
Scimitar, reposition heading 038. Copy that. Adjusting heading now. Reaper Squadron. Thanks for joining us. What's your sit rep? In position, holding now. Understood. Stand by for further orders. All flanks. Bishop wants to lose formation on our baffle so we don't clump up. Copy that.
Watkins and logistics, and he said the recon team was wiped out.
Really? Then why are we sitting here? Vandal aren't stupid. If they know we know, they would have hit us by now.
Hey, they can take as much time as they want. The longer they wait, more of a chance for 42s to get there.
Well, they can hit whenever.
Hey, there you are.
Hey.
Where's your helmet?
Can't gun without it.
Come on.
Rookie mistake.
I gotta get to my turret.
Got to go up.
Jacobs told me the Vandals had 4 ships.
Today, but there will be no time for sorrow. We will have to grieve for them later. Because 2 billion souls in this system hang in the balance. There should be no illusions about what we were up against. In the history of the UEE, a kingship has entered human space a handful of times.
Ship's locked, sir. Fleet's ready.
Stand by.
Multiple contacts inbound.
Got one! I got one!
Good kill. Come on, people, keep up the pressure. Other way. Yeah, I see it. Gauntlet, I've got bogeys I can't shake. I need a brush off. You got your pilot. All right, gunners, protect our fighters. Tracking's on.
Here we go.
It's all right. We're going to keep going.
It is not about piloting the most cutting-edge ships, or traveling to the farthest reaches of the universe, forging connections that will last your entire life, fighting to protect your home and loved ones, or even learning what you're truly capable of. Those are just the perks.
Hey.
I'm Commander.
So let's go to back in the game. Don't want that. Because I just went straight in.
I just want to know, there's something wrong with this computer. It's literally, I literally played this last night full. Our QA played it, like 10 QA today played this beginning to end. Didn't have the crash. And this one, it's so annoying.
Well, should we go to We
need to
replay
play the
mid-battle again.
replay the battle again. You got to play
Let's
it.
do it.
You know
We're
the
gonna go
story.
again. We're gonna keep going.
I'm not doing that again. That is so freaking annoying.
Bandul forces have seized control of major systems.
There's a pod here, come on! Go, go, go! Come on! Come on, come on! Let's go!
Breach detected. Depressurizing.
Sealing sealed.
Pressurizing. Pressurized. Gravity online.
Thought I was the only one left.
So did I.
Look, I need your help with something. Follow me. We're running low on power, so we have to reroute our energy from our shields to our thrusters to change direction. We're about to have company. Nice work. On me, quick!
Don't worry, don't worry.
Ejection system offline.
The escape pod door is jacked. I need you to manually override the door. I'll cover you.
Oh,
What's the status on the door?
Jared, I think you can roll the next bit.
I do solemnly pledge, mind and body, I will defend the Empire with my life.
Your application to the Flight Academy has been reconsidered. Captain McLaren had submitted a letter of recommendation on your behalf before the battle.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. You're safe.
We may be a small crew, but the work we do matters.
Welcome to the Stanton. I'm Eugene Morrow.
I'm Petty Officer Webster, Chief Mechanic.
This will be your new home.
We got you flying with Lieutenant Commander Colton. He's one of our best.
Sir? Who the hell are you? I'm your new wingman, sir. The name's...
You want me to learn your name? You live long enough for me to care.
Baron Actual, you're clear to launch.
Launching in 3, 2, 1.
Well, we did say we were doing it live, risking the demo gods, and they brought their raft down on us. I think Rich has to be our unluckiest playtester, because you're...
I didn't die, though.
You didn't die, that's true.
I didn't die.
You also got the bug where she doesn't give you the gun at the end.
This let me down, not me.
So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the first gameplay reveal. There's a lot more that goes on in Squadron 42 after that, but that sort of sets up where you came from, and from there you go in to become a pilot and start serving on a smaller ship, the Stanton, which I think we've shown a little bit before. But you know, there's a lot more in the game than we were just showing there, and it also, I think, has been a lot more stable for me when I was playing these last few weeks. But you know, as I said at the start, we have 30 to 40 hours of gameplay, and you know, we're confident we can bring the quality of the game up to the level we've just shown and more without crashes. And both the team and I are confident of giving you this game in 2026. Obviously, you can see it's not going to be tomorrow because you saw a few crashes there. And speaking of the team, a lot of them are here tonight, and I'd like to extend a huge thanks to all of them for their hard work, love and passion and talent in crafting Squadron 42. So a lot of what you saw is all their love and passion. So thank you guys very much. You're amazing. And you know, thank you for supporting us and allowing us to build such an ambitious game. I mean, crashes aside, there's probably not another game that has a prologue that has that much action. I mean, mostly there aren't movies that have that much action in there. I mean, Gladiator has 3 minutes of battle and 8 minutes of prologue. This was like an hour of crazy stuff. So, but thank you for allowing us to build something so amazing, and I can't wait for you all to be able to play it in the moderate future.
But the one thing that is good about the crashes, now we don't have to convince anybody that it definitely was live.
Yeah. But I am listening to Tyler and Jared next time, and we'll have a gameplay video.